Go buy tea for everyone. It took place at the anniversary celebration of a well-known food company. Emily, the daughter of the firm president, told me this as she threw a $1 coin at me. Releasing the coin to Emily, I did it in silence. I was overcome with melancholy. Why did I have to endure such hateful treatment? When the party staff saw what was happening, they grew pale and started whispering to each other. What's everyone fussing about? Emily's father, the head of the company, came up to me at that point and said something unexpected. I'm Jack, and I'm 42 years old. Normally I'd work at a small plant on a rural island that processes seaweed, but my family and I recently moved back into the city. My wife missed the broad sky of the island, and my 2 sons said that they liked the island better than the metropolis. We returned to the city because we were invited to a well-known food company's anniversary celebration tomorrow. We were invited to come by my mentor, Kevin, the company's executive, so we made our first return in years. Kevin requested to see me today before the celebration, so I went to the corporate office by myself. One of the most recognizable structures in the city, a skyscraper, served as the company's headquarters. A car sped into the entrance and halted as I was admiring the impressive edifice from below. A long-haired woman in a gaudy suit and black shades emerged from the bright red sports automobile. A couple of staff members hastily emerged from the doorway to welcome her. You've arrived late. Before the automobile got here, you ought to have been here to unlock the door. The 2 workers hung their heads and listened in silence while she complained. We're sorry, they said. Are you aware of who I am? You realize that you are readily replaceable. I couldn't help but feel bad for the workers when I saw this incident, so I ended up talking to the woman. Excuse me. I turned to face the 3 of them, startled by my abrupt arrival. She gave me a stern look and said, What is it? Her furious attitude intimidated me for a moment, but I worked up the nerve to say, Excuse me, but I'd like to see Kevin. You say the executive, Kevin. Are you scheduled to see someone? True enough, I'm Jack. Our scheduled meeting time for today is 1:00 p.m. The woman became even more agitated and yelled to me, Why don't you ask at the reception? Does Kevin even work here, by the way? Miss Emily, Kevin is President Harrison's right-hand man. The staff hesitantly said as they exchanged eyes. You're familiar with him. The woman heard this and her voice rose in rage, her cheeks flushed scarlet. I've never met him. Now move quickly. We're heading inside. I only came back because my father insisted. She then raced into the building, dragging the staff members behind her. Even though she was just called Emily, is it possible that this woman is the daughter of Mr. Harrison, the company's president? One of the earlier employees came back to me after they departed, right as I was ready to go to the reception. I regret what happened previously. I've reached out to Kevin. Kindly ride the elevator to the 37th floor. Thank you for going out of your way. The staff member bowed to me and dashed back inside. Kevin. It has been a long time. Nice to see you once more. Thank you for coming today. It brought me great joy to see Kevin again after all these years. We met at your wedding, is that correct? What state is your family in? Yes, my boys are maturing quickly. My youngest is currently 4 years old, and my oldest just began first grade. Every day, my wife and her friends on the island are busy trying out new recipes made using regional products. Well, I can't wait to meet them tomorrow. During my brief training assignment at a different organization, Kevin served as my mentor. He was gracious enough to mentor me throughout my first few days of work as a department manager at the time. I once made a big error that cost the company money, yet Kevin never put the responsibility on me. Rather, he went with me to apologize to the client and the business. While driving back from the client's office, I sobbed and apologized to Kevin. I've never forgotten what he said to me at the time. People who never fail never grow. I still find comfort in those remarks now. Kevin, just get rid of the nonsense. Please just be with me as you used to. Well, if you insist. Please, I haven't changed at all. Kevin hesitated at first, but then he consented and said, all right. We kept talking about my kids and island life, and although we could have spoken for hours, I chose to depart so as not to interfere with his work. Well, I should be heading out already. How unfortunate. At the party tomorrow, we'll have plenty of time to catch up. Allow me to also acquaint you with my family. That is accurate. I'm excited about it. I said Kevin farewell and opened the door, almost running into a woman who was hurriedly walking down the hallway in her loudly clicking high heels. Ah! She cried out before abruptly stopping. The girl who had been yelling earlier in the entrance was Emily, the president's daughter. Observe it. That was risky. I apologize. Are you okay? I asked quickly, and Emily appeared to know who I was. You? How come you're here? How could you enter our business without authorization? Well, you see. Kevin heard the commotion and hurriedly out from his office to introduce Emily to me. This is a friend of mine, Miss Emily. We were supposed to get together at work today. However, isn't it odd to have an outsider present during business hours? I'll let my dad know. Kevin's visage softened when he heard the words unrelated to the company, and he spoke gently in an attempt to reassure her. Miss Emily, this individual has ties to the organization. Actually, thaw. I stopped Kevin before he could reveal who I was, telling him it was okay. I'm about to head out. I'm sorry, I said to the woman, hoping to avoid causing her any more difficulty while I was at work. I ran to the elevator so I could get out of there as soon as possible. I heard her yell, "Don't ever come back to our company again," from behind me. I entered the elevator discreetly, not even turning around. Emily disrupted what should have been a happy reunion with Kevin, and I departed feeling sad. I went to the anniversary party location with my family the following day. We had decided to go to my father's factory first and have lunch together because the party was in the evening. After a long absence, my kids were overjoyed to visit their grandparents once more. My dad has a modest factory in a central part of town. From the time I finished middle school until I was 35, I volunteered there. There were only 3 of us working at the factory at the time, including my father, and the business was shaky and greatly affected by the state of the economy. Despite this, my father encouraged me to finish high school. In light of this, I made the decision to assist in the workplace rather than seek higher education. As we entered the factory, my kids yelled, "Grandpa, we're here." My dad came out the back when he heard them talking. "Oh, you succeeded. It's been a long time, Dad. How are you doing? Ever since she learned that you were all arriving, your mother has been eager to prepare lunch. I'll head over to assist her." My wife and the children then made their way to the main residence. The phone at the workplace rang just as we were ready to head out to the party location after we had lunch together. It was a call from one of the factory's customers, informing us that they were running low on deliveries to another company as a result of an ordering error and asking if we could assist them. But it was Sunday, and no one was working in the plant. It was closed. We ought to endeavor to assist them. They seem to be having problems. But you can't do it by yourself, Dad. Stop worrying about it. Head over to the venue. The celebration kicks off at 4. Yes, being late would be impolite. Having come to the realization that my father was unable to manage the burden by himself, I made the decision to stay and assist him. I'd assured my wife and children that I would join them later and ordered them to head to the event. My father was hesitant at first, but as soon as he saw me putting on the work overalls that were hanging on a chair in the factory, he quietly got to work. We completed the work just after 4:00 p.m. Jack. Thank you, my father said as he hurried out to make the delivery. I will handle the delivery. I couldn't help but be really respectful of him and the way he treats everyone as I watched him go. The location was a renowned old hotel in the city. I hurried to the party's reception wearing my oil-stained overalls, forgetting to change out of them in my haste. When I showed up in my filthy work clothes, the receptionist looked at me curiously at first, then looked at me again and apologized profusely. I apologize. I apologize for being late. Has everyone entered the building already? Yes, the celebration began roughly half an hour ago. Kindly proceed. As I opened the door to enter after being escorted to the entryway, I saw Emily, the woman from earlier, standing there wearing a bright red, sequined minidress that matched the color of the sports car I had seen. The same 2 male staff members were behind her. Emily yelled, "Who's this filthy man that looks like a cockroach?" As soon as she saw me, "Miss Emily, maybe you could speak a little quieter. Everyone is ogling us." The other workers in the room looked at us, obviously interested in what Emily was making such a fuss about. A few workers close to me began muttering, "Hey, isn't that? Could it be that Miss Emily is unaware of that person's identity? That is not possible. She should know, she's the president's daughter." The whispering went on, getting louder. "Hold on, aren't you the obnoxious dude I nearly ran into at work the other day? You've traveled a great distance in that squalid attire. What are you even wanting?" "Well, Kevin invited me." Kevin. Once more. How in the world could he have invited someone as vile and repulsive as you? He's really worthless. Not only was I astonished that she called me dirty, but I was much more offended that she made fun of Kevin. Please refrain from disparaging Kevin. I'm to blame for showing up here in this attire. When Emily heard that from me, she gave off the impression that she was about to respond with a disappointed look for a moment. But then she turned to face me and grinned wickedly, saying, "That's right. You dirty bug, how dare you respond to me? But I could forgive you since I'm a compassionate person. I'll even make you my personal servant. You need to be appreciative." "Listen carefully, this is an order from me," Emily said, grinning. "Get tea for everyone at this place," she remarked, flinging a $1 coin at me in front of the staff members who were there. The workers surrounding us paled and began to whisper in horror at that time. Emily was the only one who stood there, laughing with her arms crossed. What's causing everyone's agitation? It's a really smart concept. I'm going to buy tea for everyone in this room. I knelt down, took out the $1 coin, and extended it toward Emily without saying anything. "What are you saying? Is this insufficient, or are you simply unwilling to purchase it?" As she said, she grabbed the $1 coin out of my palm. I was overcome with melancholy. Why was I subjected to this kind of treatment? Had I done something so awful that Emily was giving it to me? Just moments earlier, the party had been bustling. Suddenly, Emily's ridiculous antics had brought everything to disarray. In the midst of the chaos, I saw someone approaching us carefully. I knew this man well when I was a young boy, so I recognized him right away. It's been a long time, Jack, and he halted in front of me. Kyle. When he arrived, the room, which had been alive with whispers, became quiet. Only Emily persisted in her cacophonous tirade. "This stranger, who is he? Who the heck is he now? Jack, I heard you were coming today, so I decided to drop over too. It's wonderful to meet you." Kyle drew me into a soft embrace. I had been waiting so long to see Kyle that I was genuinely delighted. One of my father's industrial clients filed for bankruptcy when I was in elementary school because of a bounced payment. Kyle was employed by that failed company at the time. At the time, he was in his 20s and was sending money to his family back home. However, he was put in a difficult situation when the factory abruptly closed. My father saw Kyle's situation and extended an invitation for him to live and work at our plant. Despite the difficult circumstances facing our plant as well, my father chose to recruit Kyle because he could not stand to watch him suffer. Every day, Kyle gave his all at work. My father used to frequently comment, "Kyle is quick to learn and has a natural talent," which I can still clearly recall. I regarded Kyle as though he were my actual elder brother. He responded by treating me like a younger brother and frequently remarking that I made him think of his own sibling back home. After a few years, Kyle's abilities were acknowledged, and a big corporation made him an offer to join. At first, Kyle politely declined the offer, but my father urged him to seize the chance. "Kyle, you're meant to conduct a worthwhile job that benefits people." My father informed him, "You'll get more experience out there than you would staying here." I sobbed, begging Kyle not to go the morning he departed. Kyle gave me a hug and said, "I'll come back when I've made it," after noticing that I was crying. Pulled on for me. I had faith in his promise up to that point. My father owned a factory, where I worked hard after graduating from middle school. I believed that if I put in the effort, I could surpass Kyle's level of expertise and gain a closer relationship with him. After some time, the factory attained stability. One day, when I was going to be 35, a man showed up at the plant. With a quick recognition, my father said, "Kyle, is that you really? It's been a while." I heard him say, "Mr. Nelson," and I hurried out the rear. He gave me a nice smile upon seeing me. "Jack, it's been a long time." "I've missed you, Kyle." His smile was familiar and reassuring, just like I recalled. Kyle was overjoyed when my father invited him to join us for supper. We all sat down at the same table for the first time in years while he shared memories of my mother's food. Kyle questioned me, "Jack, are you married yet?" After supper. "No, I'm not there yet, but I'm seeing someone." "Well, how about we go there, shall we?" "Explain what you mean." With his knees crossed in front of him, Kyle sat down in front of us and declared, "I want you to take over my company, Jack." "What?" "I want you to head every single one of my 50 group companies as chairman." "How come?" "Chairman of 50 businesses." As I listened, I found out that Kyle wanted me to take over all 50 of the firms he was now the chairman of. Not at all. Such a big duty is beyond me. "I trust you, so I want you to do it." Kyle persisted no matter how many times I told him it was not feasible. After first being astonished, even my parents came around to Kyle's proposal and helped him persuade me. Their tenacity overwhelmed me, and I found myself responding, "All right, I'll give it a try." I then started my business management studies at a faster pace. In order to get a thorough understanding of the business, I also went incognito to every group company in the nation. I reasoned that by keeping my name as the chairman a secret, I might be able to learn more about the company's true nature. I also moved my family to a distant island during this time and got married to my present wife. One of the group enterprises where I had received training was a small seaweed processing factory located on that island. It was at that time that I fell in love with the island. The factory brought back memories of my father's workplace by emphasizing the value of interpersonal relationships. I had only just revealed to the press that I was the chairman at this time. Emily, meantime, yawned in boredom as she observed our reunion. The staff finally started muttering among themselves as they became to understand who we were. "That's the current chairman and the former chairman, right?" Emily asked her assistant, "What do they mean by the current and former chairman?" Because it seemed that she had heard this but wasn't exactly sure what it meant. Apparently those two are our company's current and past chairman, something I didn't know until recently. How come? Why was I never informed? And why didn't you respond earlier? When Emily realized I was the chairman now, she freaked out and started berating the staff for not telling her sooner. "Miss Emily, we have been traveling overseas with you for years, and we have recently returned. We were also unaware of the identity of the current chairman." With almost tears in her eyes, one of the staff members yelled and fled the room. When the other staff members saw this, they silently did the same. It was evident that they had reached their breaking point, and I felt sorry for them. Following their departure, Emily found herself standing by herself in front of a large group of workers who were observing her from a distance. They left so swiftly. This is uninteresting. I might as well head out as well. At that moment, Mr. Harrison, Emily's father, entered through the open door. "Oh, Dad, after the party started, weren't you sleeping in your room?" Mr. Harrison concluded his salutation. It appeared that he briefly rested in a room. The vacant staff members surrounding me mentioned that he appeared unwell and had been preoccupied with back-to-back workdays. I had never seen Mr. Harrison before, but I could tell right away that he didn't look well. After receiving a report about the disturbance from his secretary, he quickly returned to the location, obliging Emily's look of surprise. Mr. Harrison stepped past her, came over to me, and then he fell on one knee, bowed his head deeply in regret. "Mr. Nelson, I truly regret my daughter's actions." Emily was uncomfortable when she saw her father bowing to me in front of all the staff members and yelled, "Dad, what are you doing in front of everyone? Wake up already." Mr. Harrison, still on his knees, lifted his head, stared at Emily, and yelled back, "You apologize too. Are you even aware of this man's identity?" In spite of her father's remarks, Emily didn't seem worried. "Whom? Although I don't know him well, he seems to be our company's chairman. You do realize that's nothing to do with me." When Mr. Harrison heard this, he started to shake with anger. "You are such a fool, Emily. Seeing how naive my own daughter has grown hurts me." The workers in the room were glued to the drama unfolding between the president and his daughter, determined not to miss a word. Then, turning back to face me and lowering his head once again, Mr. Harrison said, "Mr. Nelson, I sincerely apologize. It is all my fault that my daughter has turned out this way. I accept full responsibility as her parent and plan to step down as president right away." His announcement of his resignation shocked everyone in the room. "Mr. Harrison, could you just look up? It is not necessary to bow in this manner." Regardless of the parent-child dynamic, I couldn't help but feel that it wasn't appropriate for a parent to apologize to their adult daughter for something she had done. That's why I attempted to interrupt him mid-apology. Mr. Harrison, though, would not budge. "No, I have ignored my daughter's transgressions for far too long. It's been said that the more you adore a child, the more bothersome they are. But I've allowed her to become into someone who despises other people and lacks common decency by giving her money and letting her do as she liked. I am alone accountable for this." His speech carried a strong sense of commitment, as though he had accepted his choice. "From now on, I will resign as president." Moreover, he turned to face Emily at that point and said something startling. "I will disown my daughter." "What? Reject?" Emily was astounded by his declaration, as were I and the other guests. As an adult lady over 30 years old, you still lack knowledge about the outside world. You haven't learned how to engage with people. You have lived a selfish life. You'll be on your own from now on, having to learn the actual world's realities from the beginning. "Not at all. I vehemently object. I'm not leaving the house, no matter what you say. If you can, please try making me." Emily refused to back down and continued to act defiantly, even toward her own father. Right then, whoosh, the front door flew open. "Wait a minute." Everybody turned to face the voice's origin. Emily's attendants, who had departed earlier, were now making their way back. With regard to Miss Emily's transgressions, we have something to confess. It concerns the crimes that Miss Emily attempted to perpetrate. "What do you think you're doing coming back now?" The attendant's revelations caused the room, which had been hushed seconds before, to buzz with newfound interest. Miss Emily attempted to obtain private company information without authorization. She intended to sell it to a competitor business. "What?" Hearing this startling admission from Emily's attendants, Mr. Harrison became pale and appeared extremely concerned. Of course, it's impossible due to security measures, but when she realized she couldn't do that, she told us to find a way to withdraw money from the company instead. The employee's dissatisfaction with Emily boiled out after hearing the attendant's confessions. What does she perceive this business to be? We've put a lot of effort into this company, and yet she's been allowed to do whatever she wants because she's the boss's daughter. Never again reveal your face here." Mr. Harrison stayed down on the floor, his head dropped low in desperation, while the irate yells of the workers filled the space. Upon witnessing Mr. Harrison in this condition, I couldn't help but feel intense compassion for him. To have his much-loved daughter betray him in this way. Emily, meantime, listened to the employee's charges without displaying any regret, shaking her light impatiently and even clicking her tongue now and then in annoyance. Mr. Harrison eventually got up and requested, "Can someone please call security?" while continuing to look down sadly. Upon the arrival of the security guards that the staff had called, Mr. Harrison pointed directly at Emily and demanded something. "Please escort this woman out of here." "What? Someone has broken in here. Take her off the property right now." "Papa, what's wrong with you? Are you crazy now? You are the one who has gone insane. You've become a stranger to me. We are no longer father and daughter. Leave now." Emily was pulled from the arena by the security personnel when they seized her by the arms. Emily could not stop screaming aloud as she was being taken out. "This can't be happening. Papa. Hey, give me up. Are you aware of who I am?" I then learned that the police had to be called when Emily attempted to force her way back into the hotel after being escorted out by the security officers. "I'm the president's daughter." She cried out even after the police showed up. "Keep your hands off of me. Now let me back in." Following Emily's departure from the venue, Mr. Harrison bowed to all in attendance and declared his intention to step down. I stopped him before he could try to leave the room and talked him out of his resignation and into giving it another go for the good of the firm. I advised him to put his attention going forward on what he could do to support the staff if he genuinely felt regret for what had occurred. However, Mr. Harrison objected, stating, "I'm not qualified for that." That's when Kevin said something. "You've come to my aid numerous times. Throughout the years I've worked with you, I've observed your consideration for the business and its personnel. I think that's how everyone feels here." Each employee gave a nod of assent. "No, but even so, Mr. Harrison, I'm still young and inexperienced. But I'd like to share something with you," Mr. Harrison said, tears welling up in his eyes as he responded to Kevin's remarks. "I was once given advice by a mentor that has helped me ever since." Then I said what had meant so much to me. People cannot grow if they are unaware of failure. I think you can always start over and learn from your mistakes, no matter how old you are. For the benefit of the staff, I thus ask that you keep up your hard work. Mr. Harrison was approached by Kyle, who had been silently listening, who remarked, "Mr. Harrison, you worked hard and built this firm from the ground up. It's possible that you raised your daughter incorrectly, but as Jack mentioned before, growth is impossible for those who are unaware of failure. Kindly remember that and keep moving forward. Everyone, I apologize. I truly apologize." President Harrison was unable to continue speaking after that and started crying. I wrapped my arm around his shoulder and comforted him. The staff were affected by the spectacle and continued to cheer for a considerable amount of time after that. It is true that Emily's parents disowned her and forced her to leave the home. Her former attendants sued her as well, claiming they had been mistreated both mentally and physically. She was made to pay a sizable portion of the awarded damages. She soon found herself working on a fishing boat owned by one of Kyle's buddies, helping with cleaning and supporting the fishermen, after being unable to find job and requiring money to pay for the damages. Emily used to try to get away a lot, so the fishermen watched her carefully. Emily didn't resemble her previous glamorous self at all, according to a mutual acquaintance who had seen her recently. She was sunburned, had messy hair, little makeup, and appeared to have aged considerably. Nevertheless, if she puts in a lot of effort there, she may eventually improve greatly from who she was previously. I'm clinging to that sliver of optimism. As it happened, my family wasn't there in the party hall for the entire incident. The three of them had been sleeping in a waiting room as my youngest kid dozed off. That was a relief to hear, because I didn't want my kids to see anything like that. We walked out of the motel, and it was getting dark. Kyle was waiting for us as we were about to leave for home. Jack, today it must have been tough for you. Kyle, thank you. You also had a difficult time. Do you intend to return to the island? Yeah, life there suits us better. Both me and my family. My family gave me warm smiles and nodded in response when I looked at them. As I work on the island, I'll continue to study business, and I'll visit the enterprises as needed. My family may miss me when I'm gone, and the company may find it inconvenient, but Dad, because you're working hard, we'll work hard too. Me too. I enjoy watching you work so hard, even though there are moments when I miss you. Oh, how romantic. My family's support impacted me so much that I had to look up to keep from crying. I'm happy I gave you everything. I've always been somebody who loves to make things, not so much of a businessman. Jack, I was thinking about you right away when I was having trouble deciding what to do with the companies. Are you serious? Why you selected me has always baffled me. I take it that you watched your father grow up. You've developed into someone who is exactly like him, kind, considerate, and mature. The things Kyle said struck a deep chord with me. The knowledge that he felt that way about me moved me. You never give up on individuals who are weak, which is a sign of strength in you. I knew I could trust you with everything because of this. Yeah, Dad's the best and the strongest. Indeed, the greatest of the best. Please, I'm embarrassed. Come on. I had a fresh appreciation for everyone in my immediate vicinity. My parents, my family, Kyle, and Kevin are the reason I've been able to be true to myself all these years. Dad, let's go back to the island soon. Yes, let's head back soon to the place where I truly belong. Go quickly. Is it not prepared yet? I sincerely apologized. Please wait just a little longer. There were voices from the adjoining rooms demanding meals. Yes, that was far after 7 o'clock at night. What in the world was happening? The female hotel manager then showed up to our private room and apologized. There was just one trainee chef left to make the dishes after it seemed like all the chefs had been abruptly taken by a large hotel. Such an amount of food could not have been prepared by one novice chef. My spouse signaled to me by placing her hand on my shoulder. I got up and made my way into the kitchen. I had no idea how this choice would affect the trajectory of my life at the time. Adam, my name, is 31 years old. Born to a homemaker mother and a chef father, I was simply an average person. On his days off, my father, a chef in a fine dining establishment, would frequently teach me how to cook. For me, such culinary sessions with my busy father were priceless. He showed me how to slice steak and allowed me to hold a big knife, even when I was little. My mother looked on, surprised but silently observing us. My parents were encouraging and never voiced any complaints when I tried anything. My goal eventually evolved into being a chef like my father. My father taught me different meals virtually every day, thrilled as if he had discovered my dream. My mother would often watch us, smile softly, and say, "Adam, you can become a wonderful chef." Even though I was really happy for my parents, it wasn't long-lasting. My high school unexpectedly got a call. I was instructed to go home by my teacher. I hurried home, wondering what had happened. Inside the house, I discovered my mother laying on the bed and my father in tears. My mom appeared to have suffered a rapid heart attack because she was already cold to the touch. I repeatedly called my mother's name, but I got no answer. My father became even more absorbed in his work after that day, and our conversations were fewer and fewer. I believe that he was experiencing the same loneliness that I experienced after my mother's abrupt departure, and I started to lose interest in my own life. Regardless of how difficult the days were, my father's job kept him away from home. The loneliness of not having my mother around destroyed my heart. I didn't attend culinary school to become a chef when I graduated from high school. Instead, I started working. I was hired by an international five-star hotel because of a recommendation from my high school. Arriving at such an amazing career straight out of high school felt nearly miraculous. But when I told my father about the job offer, all he did was nod regretfully. The idea of his only relative going out must have made him feel lonely. As soon as I received the job, I moved out. Living in a house full of my mother's memories was too hard to bear. My father gave me a knife with my name etched on it as I was leaving. This was something I was going to give you when you moved away. Even if you live alone, make sure to prepare for yourself and take care of your health. I said, "Thank you," picked up the knife my father had given me, and walked out of the house feeling conflicted and sad. I loaded up my heavy bag and proceeded to my new home. It was thrilling and fun to work at the five-star international hotel. It was satisfying, and I even wanted to establish myself there. After 10 years of these kinds of days, my father called me one day. "I'm going to have surgery, so I need you to sign the consent form." I became pale. Is my father undergoing surgery? What was happening? I took off for the hospital. My father was lying on the bed in the hospital chamber. When I saw him for the first time in a long time, I noticed he had become much older. It wasn't a life-threatening surgery for my father, but even so, I made the decision that I wanted to work closer to him. I thus left my 10-year hotel career. Regretfully, my father glanced at me, but there was nothing I could do. I made the decision to move to a prominent hotel in the area. The hotel hired me on as a full-time janitor. Although I was happy to have found work again, the task was not as easy as I had thought. I was in charge of making sure visitors weren't uncomfortable and thoroughly cleaning the lobby, guest rooms, and other areas. I used a broom to properly sweep the area, and then I used a vacuum. I then used a cloth to carefully polish the floor. I had never done such a thorough cleaning of my own home. That's when I realized how difficult it is to make money. At that moment, I was approached by another new employee named Ashley. "Are you also a recent hire? Isn't cleaning a difficult task?" Ashley's big eyes gleamed, her long hair pulled back. "I too am a recent hire. Even the smallest details need to be cleaned." Ashley and I kept cleaning as we grumbled. A powerful voice then reverberated across the room. "Hey, stop talking so much. Adam, you clean too shabbily." "Yes, I apologize," I replied. Mason was the one in charge of onboarding new staff members. I was roughly 10 years older than Mason. He had developed a strong hate for me, saying that out of all the new hires, I was the lowest performer. "Are you even motivated at all? I'll make your attitude right," he said. Mason started treating me worse after that. He would purposefully ruin the rooms I had cleaned or force me to repeatedly clean the same spot. "Hey, incompetent, redo this area." "But I just cleaned it a moment ago." "What? Conversing with me again?" Mason always came to me in a bossy manner, but I was a new employee and didn't know how to respond. These kinds of days persisted, and I was mentally and physically spent. There was one bright spot, though. Ashley and I began dating. Of course, we had a lot to discuss as fellow newbies. Since we had similar likes in food and TV shows, it was only a matter of time until our relationship dissolved. I started to feel better about things. I believe it's due to Ashley's contagious positive energy, which positively impacted me. Ashley and I made the decision to tie the knot after some time. As it happened, Ashley was expecting my baby. Ashley made the decision to resign from her position because her health prevented her from working further. She enjoyed and was proud of her work, so she didn't want to quit, but there was nothing she could do about it. I choose to put in even more effort in response. When Mason learned that Ashley was leaving, he looked at her with confusion. "Ashley is good at her job," he replied, glaring at me. "You should give up if anyone should." However, I was unable to help. Ashley had a bad case of morning sickness, She was unable to eat since it was so horrible. I decided to make her dinner because I was worried and looked up foods she could like. Since Ashley enjoys veggies, I decided to prepare a meal that would bring out their flavors and make eating simpler for her. I got busy making food as I was thinking about this. The food was ready and on the table before I knew it. Ashley's gaze brightened. Adam, that is incredible. You surpass my skill level by far. She remarked, I'm impressed, and immediately began to eat. Even though she claimed she couldn't eat because of the morning sickness, she ate it like it was amazing. I was pleased with how quickly she completed things. Ashley questioned, looking intrigued, Adam, how come you're so good at cooking? You surpassed me by a wide margin. I decided to tell Ashley about this after realizing I hadn't. I inhaled deeply. You know, I used to have a dream of being a chef. You do recall that my dad works as a chef. He used to teach me a lot of cooking techniques when I was younger. Ashley nodded at this, as if she was happy with my justification for being a skilled chef. I took over Ashley's culinary responsibilities after that because she was ill. Cooking became a method for me to unwind because she was always complimenting me on how good my dinners were. At work, too, there was good news. Mason, who had been mistreating me and calling me inept, was moved to another opulent hotel. Mason had always made fun of me and looked down on me, so not having him around made me feel a lot less stressed. I had more freedom to work at the office now that Mason was not there. After 6 months, Ashley was admitted to the hospital, and I was there too. I was going to become a father for the first time today. I was waiting tensely for the birth of our baby while Ashley was in the delivery room. I prayed for the mother's and the child's health while I was waiting. Then the time arrived. From the delivery room, I could hear a baby's sobs, and the midwife approached me while holding the child. A girl is involved. Congratulations, she said. The midwife gave me the baby, which I cradled in my arms. With wide eyes, the small, cuddly infant peered around. I thought she was kind of like myself. I mumbled, so, I'm a father now. Hi there. You call me Daddy. The baby listened closely as I spoke to her. Very cute. I was staring at the baby when I heard a voice I knew. Adam, congratulations. My dad's voice was heard. I quickly turned around and saw him standing there. Dad, what are you doing here? Surprised, I asked. He said, Ashley told me. My dad hadn't met Ashley when Ashley and I agreed to be married, so I was the only one to tell him about it. He was preoccupied with work, so our chance to get together was lost. Ashley had quietly told my dad about the baby without informing me, and I didn't want to ruin his efforts. Ashley's thoughtfulness moved me. With his eyes narrowed, my father gave the baby a tender glance. She is quite cute. She resembles you exactly as a newborn. Could I take a grip of her? I gave my father my daughter. As he embraced her, tears fell down his face. This pleased me to see. Ashley emerged from the delivery room in a wheelchair after some time. She smiled to see me and my father together. I hurried over to Ashley. I wanted to tell her something really important. I looked into Ashley's eyes and said, Ashley, thank you for our beautiful baby and for letting my father know, with absolute gratitude. Naturally, tears streamed down my face. Blotting my tears, Ashley chuckled and remarked, Oh, look at you, the crybaby dad. Standing next to us, my father also chuckled. Our daughter Emily was named by my father. Ashley really did want that. Ashley told me how much she appreciated my father naming our daughter. In order to care for Ashley and our baby Emily, I made the decision to take a 2-week break from my hotel employment. It was very happy to spend those 2 weeks with Ashley and Emily. Ashley was my daily dinner cook, and she would eat every meal and tell me how good it was, affected by the flavor. I started to really enjoy cooking. The hotel manager introduced me to a man when my leave ended, and I went back to work after a long break. Clearly, it was Mason. Mason was exactly the same as he was 6 months ago. Why was Mason, who was supposed to have been transferred, here? I pondered. This gave me a horrible feeling. I had no idea how accurate my negative emotions would out to be. I'm the chief manager, Mason. It is nice to be back at this hotel after a protracted absence. I'm excited to work hard once more with each of you. Mason's reassignment to this hotel startled me. In addition, he had been elevated to the position of chief manager. I thought to myself, well, he probably doesn't even remember me, as I went back to my workstation and got to work. Mason then walked up to me and said something unexpected. Hey, stupid. You can't even clean properly anymore. For someone so inept, you're really arrogant, he remarked. I believed that the nightmare was coming back to me. It never occurred to me that Mason would think of me and label me inept once more. With a downcast expression, I merely responded, I'm sorry. Mason laughed and scoffed, saying, a useless person is no good at anything. And he turned to leave me. Although I felt hurt on the inside, I realized there was no use in opposing Mason. For my own sake, it was better that I remained silent. Fully worn out, I sighed as I made my way home. Mason was waiting for me at work the following day. You're running behind schedule. Scrub this floor from corner to corner. We have significant visitors arriving today, he growled. Mason appeared more tense than normal. Our hotel is expecting a 5-star chef, muttered my colleague. Are you serious? Why is this 5-star hotel's chef coming here? I pondered. He's planning to recruit new chefs, aiming to poach a few from a renowned 5-star hotel. My colleague murmured once more. Hey, poaching. Well, it's not related to me at all. Along with my coworkers, I scrubbed the entire floor as instructed by Mason. I was going to take extra care to make sure there was not a single grain of dust on the shelves or handrails. Mason, however, came over to me with an angry expression. Can't you even perform basic housekeeping tasks? Dust is still present. Time is running out, so move quickly. That is not possible. I had just finished cleaning completely, but I got agitated and went back to cleaning. Then voices could be heard at the hotel's front door. I turned to see famous chefs, the kind you see in magazines or on TV, chatting with Mason. A chef gave me a quick glance, and I automatically turned my head away to avoid making eye contact. Mason then made his way to the hotel's kitchen with the cooks. I've heard that growing expenses are causing financial difficulties for hotels. Therefore, standing out from the crowd is crucial if you want to become even marginally more well-known than other hotels. Our hotel's restaurant must be an attempt to set itself apart. I considered the management issues at the hotel as if they belonged to someone else. And once more, on this particular day, my father was, for some reason, at home when I arrived home fatigued, and Ashley had a smile on her face. What's going on? It gave me the shivers to see the two of them like that. Then Ashley added, Do you know what day it is today? Leaning closer. I had a lot of questions in my head. Today is? Oh, right. With hesitation, I spoke. Our wedding anniversary is today. I apologize sincerely. I forgot. Ashley scoffed at my sincere tone. It's all right. Work has been keeping you busy. It feels like any other day. You've been so tired lately. Ashley had been observing me closely and was becoming concerned. Let's visit that classic, reputable hotel restaurant you've always wanted to check out. I've asked your father to watch over Emily today. Ashley presented her dinner tickets to me. They belonged to Dylan, a buddy from my time spent working at an upscale hotel. We always had busy schedules and I had always wanted to travel, but we never found time. However, I questioned if my father could truly care for Emily on his own. I became concerned. My father, sensing my worry, added, You know that I took care of you when you were a baby, didn't I? He smiled and added, Go out and enjoy yourselves for a change. Ashley and I made the decision to attend after considering my father's advice. Many thanks, Dad. Then we'll be gone. I walk out of the home with Ashley by my side. We had not gone out together for a very long time. 1 year has passed since our marriage. Time passes quickly. I felt so lucky to have Ashley as my wife. We went inside the restaurant of the old-fashioned hotel with great joy. The ambience was distinct from the opulent hotel in which I was employed. The structure had an old-world charm and character. We were shown to a lovely private room with a view of the garden after presenting our dinner tickets at the lobby. As might be expected from a reputable hotel, it appeared that every seat in this restaurant was private. The lavishness of the place astounded Ashley and me. Dylan arrived to say hello after some time. Dylan had not lost his handsomeness. Adam, a long time has passed. We appreciate your visit to our hotel. Please settle in. Thanks, we're looking forward to the meal. Dylan grinned and walked off. Before Dylan took over, his parents managed this classic hotel. Its food is so well known that the Michelin Guide mentions it. Even while he was working at the five-star hotel, Dylan was always a diligent worker. Dylan's efforts have surely contributed to the hotel's appeal. Anticipating the foods that will be presented, we couldn't wait. Myself and Ashley were ecstatic. But regardless of how long we waited, our lunch never showed up. I looked at the time. The evening had already gotten past 7. Ashley and I waited patiently, realizing it was a busy hour. Then, from the adjacent private room, we recognized a voice. This is taking an eternity. Are the cooks in the kitchen fast asleep? That voice belonged to Mason. I buried my face in my palms. I didn't want to spend this amazing moment with Mason in a private room. I clutched my head in my hands while Ashley gave me a troubled expression. I reluctantly gave her the rundown on Mason's circumstances. Then Ashley remarked, "Let's ignore him," and gave me a comforting handshake. My heart began to settle gradually. However, Mason's voice reappeared. "Go quickly. Is it not prepared yet?" "Very sorry. It'll just be a little longer, please." We began to hear hurried calls for food from other rooms in addition to Mason's. Ashley and I had been waiting for our supper for more than an hour now. What was happening? While I was thinking about this, Dylan approached. A large hotel chain stole all of our chefs. There's just one apprentice left in the kitchen. This might be the last time our classic hotel exists. Adam, please lend a hand. Dylan could not decide. Adam, I think you're the only one who can help, Ashley remarked, putting her hand on my shoulder. Ashley surprised me by meeting my eyes with a determined expression. I am fully informed, Adam. Your chance to shine is now. Ashley therefore knew all along. After then, there would be no reason to conceal it. I got to my feet. I followed Dylan into the kitchen. I hurried over to the kitchen. A young apprentice chef was preparing alone, hurriedly, indoors. I was given an apron by Dylan. After giving myself a short bath, I put on the apron. I started cooking as soon as I saw the ingredients arranged. The sous chef dutifully followed my directions. Dylan silently observed my technique and said, "That's the Adam I know." A few dishes were ready in no time, and the crew started taking them to the private rooms. Sounds of astonishment emerged from the apartments shortly after. Wow, this is delicious. What's this all about? Nothing this delicious has ever tasted like it before. The cooking was far from done, though. I continued to make one new dish after another. I amazed the apprentice cook with my abilities. He questioned, "Who exactly are you?" as he followed my directions to go. I told him straight up, I used to be the head chef at a 5-star hotel overseas. The trainee cook let go of the radish in his hand. What? Really? Avoid spilling the food on the ground. Don't stop moving. Keep going. Yes, sir. In fact, I worked as the head chef at a 5-star hotel abroad in the past. Immediately following high school, I began working at a 5-star hotel. I started out as a waiter, but Mike, the head chef at the time, noticed that I had potential as a cook one day when I was making meals for the crew. Most likely because I learned how to cook from my father when I was a little child. I worked as an apprentice for a few years before being hired as head chef at a 5-star hotel abroad. Being the chief chef was something I had never envisaged, so to be honest, I was astonished. But I was thrilled when I saw people moved by my food. But since I was working abroad, I was concerned about leaving my father alone himself in America. Cooking was not as essential to me as my father. Even if I wasn't staying in a 5-star hotel, I could still cook. I reluctantly gave up my job as head chef. Ashley had never heard about my past from me. It was difficult to bring up. It wasn't that I was hiding it. She said her father had told her about my former position as head chef when I questioned later how she found out. I could understand why that might be. I worked tirelessly with the apprentice chef while thinking back on the past. It was just the dessert left now. There was chocolate mousse for dessert today. After the mousse was finished, I plated it and began decorating. It has been long since I plated on opulent plates. My skills hadn't seemed to wane. The chocolate mousse was adorned by me like a work of art. Profoundly moved by what they saw, Dylan and the trainee chef observed me decorate. The workers took the exquisitely adorned mousse to the waiting customers' private apartments. Every dish was successfully finished. Both Dylan, who had observed me cooking, and the chef in training, who helped me, cheered. I was respectful to both of them. It had taken me a long time to prepare a full course, and I was tired. "Adam, you really saved us today," Dylan exclaimed, his eyes welling with tears. I'm grateful. I was happy to have helped Dylan. Even though it was fleeting, I liked cooking for the visitors once more. In fact, I was grateful to Dylan for providing me with this worthwhile experience. As I turned to go back to Ashley's room after taking off my apron, a staff member appeared concerned and came up to me. "A guest has requested to meet the chef who prepared today's meal," he blurted out in a hurry. "Yes, I cooked the dinner today, but I'm not the official chef at this old world hotel. For someone like myself to meet the guests would be inappropriate." Dylan then hurried over. "If you don't mind, Adam, could you greet the guests?" One of my few buddies, Dylan, was staring at me beseechingly. I figured I could at least greet Dylan, if that would help. I got up and followed the employee to the private room where the visitor had asked to see me. It was the adjacent room to the one Ashley and I had been in earlier. "Is this room?" This gave me a horrible feeling. "Pardon me," said the employee as they unlocked the private chamber door. Mason was inside, along with the chefs from the 5-star hotel that had come to visit us today. As I had suspected, it was Mason. I tried not to look them in the eye. Mason started talking, not understanding it was me. "Your food was delicious. Every meal was beautifully prepared and delicious. Would you be interested in working for my hotel as the only chef?" Mason's praise left me stunned and unable to speak. Mason's kind words about my food surprised me. Dylan was taken aback as well, hearing from behind. I was at a loss for words as I gazed down. Mason leaned in abruptly to get a closer look at my face. Adam. Mason looked astonished, his eyes wide. "What brings you here? Did you prepare those dishes?" I softly said, hesitantly, "Due to various circumstances, I prepared those dishes." Mason gave me a disbelieving look. "Not at all. How could such delicate foods be made by someone as unskilled as you? Put an end to your jokes." Mason's words boomed across the enclosed space. Mason was seated next to a chef from a 5-star hotel who fixed his intense gaze on my face. He appeared to have recalled something out of the blue. "Aren't you Adam, the head chef?" The chef de cuisine gave me a dazzling look. We had met when I was still the head chef at a 5-star hotel abroad, as I could still clearly recall. He helped me back then as an apprentice cook. Back then, the 5-star chef was quite different from how he is now, full of confidence. I always supported him because of this. Mason asked the five-star chef, "What's going on here?" After learning of the news, perplexed. Mason appeared to be in a panic. It makes sense. He found it hard to accept that this person he had assumed to be a worker was actually a chef. Mason was then informed by the five-star hotel's chef that I had previously held the position of head chef there. Mason dropped a glass he was carrying by accident. "Your dishes were so delicious back then that they were the talk of the town. They were revolutionary. It makes me quite happy to having tried those foods today." Mason, who had looked down on me, appeared unable to accept that I was a world-class chef. "That's impossible," he said. Then the chef at the five-star hotel made an unexpected proposition. "Adam, it must be fate that we met here. Would you mind helping me in the restaurant of the five-star hotel once more?" Me, preparing food once more? It was a really kind offer. I was itching to cook again. But I was afraid that being busy would mean ignoring Ashley and my little girl. Then Ashley gently made her way out of the adjacent private room, where she had been listening to my chat. "Adam, you never know when you'll get another chance like this," she said as she gave me a quick look. "It's acceptable to put oneself before me." I had made up my mind. I said, "I'd love to, but there's a place that needs me more," to the chef of the upscale restaurant. "I apologize." The chef at the five-star hotel gave a disappointed nod. Someone else may hold the head chef post in a five-star hotel, but I believed that I was the only qualified cook this old-fashioned establishment could have. My choice stunned everyone in attendance, but Ashley was grinning. "Dylan, I want to preserve this hotel's food. Could I take on the role of chief chef?" My statements brought Dylan to tears. "You, a distinguished chef, are willing to protect my hotel, even if it's not a five-star hotel." Dylan repeated the information to me multiple times, but I was set in my ways. I eventually resigned from my position as the opulent hotel's cleaner with firmness. That's when I began working at Dylan's hotel as the head chef. I made every effort to create dishes of the highest caliber, from developing the menu to locating the ingredients. This led to the hotel's restaurant being quite well known very fast. Not only that, but the hotel was entirely reserved. We eventually gained media attention as well, and before we knew it, we had upgraded to a five-star hotel. It was after I had been employed by this hotel as a chef for a while. Mason was waiting for me when I was ready to leave work as usual. Mason was here, but why? He came over to me, even though I was going to ignore him. "Are you thinking about working as a cook at my hotel? I'll provide you favorable terms. Your cuisine is going to make my hotel very well known." Mason, who had always looked down on me, was now acting as if nothing had happened, which astonished me. Simultaneously, I was certain that working at a hotel with someone such as him was not what I wanted. I cannot work for someone who belittles and underestimates others. I then departed the area. Mason was left stunned and standing there. And then a year passed by in an instant. I kept working on creating more menus. These days, reservations for our hotel are booked 3 years in advance due to its increasing popularity. I sometimes take Ashley, my daughter, and my father to the hotel to sample the food because of Dylan's thoughtfulness. My goal is to keep cooking delectable meals that our guests and my family will enjoy.